Welcome to this OST2 presentation about primary key generation using the ESAPI and TPM2 TSS. Let's get into generating a primary key because this is the fundament for any TPM operations. We need to have TPM keys in order to perform signing or to generate evidence or to encrypt data, to seal secrets, and so on and so on. So we need to have a key hierarchy, and we've learned about TPM key hierarchies in TC 1101, which needs a primary key. The primary key is used to symmetrically encrypt the child keys and thus protect them, so we can even store child keys outside the TPM. And what do we need to perform this? Well, we need obviously our ESIS context. Then we need to define a primary handle, which is to say we need to define the TPM hierarchy. We learned about the owner hierarchy a lot in TC 1101. In TC 1102, we'll also start using the endorsement hierarchy for machine identity and other use cases. For now, let's just continue to use the owner hierarchy, as this is probably the most common one that you use in your application and use cases. Then, the authorization sessions will keep also empty for now. Just for now, the insensitive part can hold the unique field and give additional randomness to the seed of our key. The in public holds the parameters for that key. Outside info can be the data that we may seal user data in that key. And creation PCR are just PCR digests read and added to the creation data of the TPM. This is used for some auditing purposes or for some checks in general. This is not sealing of a key to PCRs. This is done using PCR policy that we will learn about in this course as we gather more knowledge and we get to that lecture. So, what is the typical flow of generating a primary key using ESAPI? First, of course, we need to perform the ESIS initialize and we need to set our TCTI. Then we need to call the ESIS create primary function. Once the key is created, we can decide, are we going to use that primary key or are we going to generate a child key underneath? So we form a key hierarchy. And once we are ready, we need to make sure that we flush this primary key. This is just the gist of it. And in the next lectures, we'll start to build on that and make more use of it. So for the first lab, you see that the goal is to generate the primary key using our template, make the necessary changes and generate that primary key and then flush it out. So it is important to mention here, and this is why we have this note on the bottom of the slide, that primary keys under the endorsement hierarchy are usually created using a template defined by the TCG, and using that template, the EK cannot be used for signing. But of course, if you create your own primary key under the endorsement hierarchy and you don't follow the TCG specification, there's nothing preventing you from having that key also used for signing. It will just not be compliant. That's all. So we'll learn more about the EK when we get to machine identity, to the endorsement hierarchy. I just wanted to mention this because it is an important note to know about primary keys, and we covered it briefly in TC 1101. I think it's important to mention here as well, so we keep note of it. Now, looking at ESIS create primary closer, we see that the MITM protection needs to go in these authorization slots, and for now you use the none, define ESIS TR none. Therefore, the minimum inputs, as mentioned here, are the ESIS context. We need to specify the TPM hierarchy. We need to provide the insensitive field where we can also have the password authorization if we want. And then we need the parameters for the key. Is it going to be an ECC, RSA key, and so on and so on. And here is an example use of ESIS create primary. With all the function populated, we need also to have these variables to store the outcome of the operation. And here comes the insensitive field, which holds usually the authorization value for the TPM key we just mentioned, the in public, the parameters, ECC, RSA, size, so on. And outside info holds the arbitrary data. This is how we seal user arbitrary data in TC 1101 using TPM2 tools. Here we can do it using the ESAPI. To try and use the template, just go build it, try to get randomness, try to get random bytes. If you have any questions, please write to us after each unit.